guys, how you going? And welcome back to another episode of In the Sheds. We're up to episode 17 now, and it is the Wednesday Alive Sport Chat. I'm looking forward to this one. There is so much going on right now, just like there is all the time. And I tell you what, we're not even into the American sports yet. The American sports haven't even begun to start, and we've just got so much to talk about in rugby league. We've got the AFL we're going to be talking about. We've got the Premier League that we're going to be talking about. There's the Super Rugby, and it's just absolutely insane right now. And I'm really keen to see what the boys' thoughts are. We've got Entertain House here, as per usual, the co-host of In the Sheds. How you doing, champion?
Yeah, doing good, mate. It was good to see some good sport over the weekend. I thought we had some really competitive games across the world.
Yeah, there was across Europe and Australia, not the world just yet. I told you, the American sports, they're not here just yet. They're coming though. There's some coming. Baseball, it's a goodbye. It's not coming yet. What?
You got New Zealand with the Super Rugby as well. So
yes, well, that's like
continents.
Australasia. It's like we're just going to class Australia and New Zealand in together. There, we're brothers, mate. We're brothers. But guys, we do have a guest as per usual. So every Wednesday we try and get a guest who's in the community or a listener of the podcast, or just one of you guys to jump on here and chat with us. And today we've actually got another fellow creator. He does a lot of rugby league content. He does dabble in the AFL and Premier League as well, but he loves his rugby league. His name is Rugby League, in my opinion, or Ollie, or Oliver, which we're going to call him on this podcast. But he really loves his sport. And welcome to the Sheds, mate.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, as always, I'm keen for a bit of a rugby league chat, but I've never really been on a show before where I've been able to talk about other things such as the Premier League or the AFL, something like that. So I'm really keen to get into it.
Well, that's the thing, man. Like when I messaged you, I was like, do you kind of talk about, I obviously see you talk about rugby league, but I've seen a couple of times here and there. There's like one post maybe about the NBA or something here and there. But so what other sports do you usually get into? Okay,
so other than the NRL, I'm biggest on football, or the Premier League specifically.
I love how you call it football, mate.
Yeah. On my page, whenever I refer to it, when I'm making a point about rugby league, comparing the two, I always say football / soccer.
Yeah.
So I don't annoy anyone, but this might split some people. I'm a Liverpool FC fan.
Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, no. This guy's a Chelsea fan. I'm a Manchester City fan, but, I'm happy enough with how everything's going. I know we're going to come second this year, but we'll get into that in a second. But I've come to terms with the fact that we're still technically the back-to-back champions. So you can't take that off us right now. But guys, we're going to first up, we're going to get into the rugby league. Then after that, we're going into AFL. After that, we're going into the Premier League and Super Rugby. So for the listeners out there who are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, that's how it goes. But if you want to see the video, we actually have the video recording where you can watch everything on BKRsport YouTube, and also the In the Sheds podcast clips page, which is the channel on YouTube specifically for clips of the podcast. So we're actually going to be doing our NRL tips, AFL tips, Super Rugby tips, and Premier League tips on the as a clip on its own on the podcast now. So we're not going to be putting it on the podcast. The podcast can be pretty much specifically for actual topics, because there's just so many topics to get through, and doing tips takes a while too. So go and subscribe to the In the Sheds podcast YouTube channel, because that is where you're going to see all of our bloody expansive tips. They'll actually come out before the podcast even goes up. So there you go. A little bit of a sneaky action there. But guys, let's get into the rugby league and what a round it was. Let me just first off go through the games that we had. And I'll tell you what, I live streamed majority of the NRL this weekend because there's just so many good games. The Knights obviously won 27-6 over the Broncos. The Rabbitohs 40-12 over the Warriors. Penrith Panthers 21-14 over the Storm. Dragons beating the Titans 20-8. Let's not talk too much about that one. 36-20 to the Tigers over the Cowboys. The Roosters 24-10 over the Eels. So that makes the Eels 4-2 now, Hayden. Then there's Manly 14-6 over the Raiders, and the Sharkies 20-18 over the Doggies. All right, what's our first point of impact here, guys? What are your thoughts?
I thought this was the best round of footy I've seen this year. I think we've seen some real good game. Round 2 saw Manly Seagulls defeat the Roosters. Fantastic game of football. We saw the Raiders flog the Storm in round 3. But this round, for me, was the best round of the year. And I think that Panthers Storm, the Roosters Eels.
That was a fantastic game, that Roosters Eels game. Wow.
I'm tossing between Manly and Raiders and Sharks and Bulldogs. I probably enjoyed Sharks and Bulldogs more, but Manly had a gutsy win and showed that they are a final side that are going to be very dangerous when it comes to finals.
100%, Ben. Yeah, I agree. I think that, I really enjoyed that Sharks Dogs game. I thought it was between two shit teams, but in the same sense, I thought it was just, there was a lot of attack in there. Look, the first half was a little bit down, but in the same sense, I didn't think it was too bad. You know, we were live streaming it. We were still having a good time. And that second half was pretty intense in that last 10 minutes, even though the Sharks threw a pass that was just ridiculous and ended up making the game closer. I think that closer score was what it deserved, really. I think it was what it deserved. But, you know, I think there was quite a few games, like you said, Roosters, Eels, like that game was just absolutely special. But something in regards to that Sharks-Dogs game that I do want to bring up, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. So the set restart rule, that's a big thing that's happened this year. And the set restart rule, obviously, no one knows what is happening. No one knows why the set restarts happened. No one knows kind of it's basically like a penalty in a way, but without getting the kick. What do you guys think of this? And I'll go to you first here, Ollie. What do you think of this? Because at first I loved it, but now I think it's good. It makes the game faster, but I'm still confused about it.
I have to agree with you there. It definitely makes for a better on-field product, right? A more entertaining product, a fast-flowing product. However, I agree with you. Sometimes I'll be screaming at my TV saying, how was that a set restart? And I'll be screaming saying, how was that not a set restart? I'm a bit confused myself. You know, now I'm looking at tackles, and if someone's taking 1 second too long in the ruck or something, instantly in my brain, it snaps and I go, shouldn't that be a set restart? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I feel like the NRL have been pretty broad because it is for infringements in the ruck. It is for a bit of niggle in the ruck. You need to define that a bit better though. Because for the referees as well, because different referees will have, I guess, a different version in their head of what appropriates that set restart. There will be some stricter refs where if there's even a little bit of niggle, straight that first second, set restart. There'll be others that think, okay, maybe if they're 3 or 4 seconds too long, maybe it's a set restart.
Well, who was the referee for the Sharks-Dogs game? Was it Klein? No.
G, I believe.
G. Well, he basically gave, and this actually kept coming on the comments on the stream, he honestly kept absolutely piggybacking either one side. It wasn't one side or the other. It wasn't specifically one side. It was one side or the other. They were both just getting absolutely fed set restarts in specific areas of the field. And I think people are, you know, what I would love to see, right? Because I love it, but I want to know what it's for. Like the set restart, cool. It's great. It does fasten up what you're saying. And it will come down to the referee's interpretation, which is something that we have trouble with across the board in the NRL compared to other sports. Interpretation in this sport is really wild. Like it really is compared. But I think they need to have someone who's listening behind the scenes onto it, like it's the mouthpiece. So they do have a mouthpiece, but they aren't told to tell us what the set restart's for. They just kind of, you see them do this and you're like, oh, okay, there's a set restart. But maybe they can tell them in that mouthpiece what's going on, and then they can come up with the thing on the bottom of the screen or something. Like, what do you guys think that's a possibility? Or
yeah, just like the penalty count, we're now seeing the reason on screen for it. That's what we need to see for the set restart. I agree with you boys. At first, it was good, made the game fast paced, but it seems, and this might be taking a shot here, but it seems like certain referees are using it towards certain teams. And I feel like we get that with penalty counts.
We kind of brought that up before, mate, when we first brought it up in, I think, when our second podcast or something, when we came and done these live sport ones, we said there was potential for bias.
I think we did. And I think of games where, for example, I'm trying to think of a game, but I think there was a game I watched where it was 6-4 in a penalty count, and then it was 6-all by the end of it. It seems like referees purposely do this to make it even and look like they're not disadvantaging one team. And I think that's what's happening with the set restart. We saw that with Sharks and Dogs. There were so many given to the Sharks at first, and then the Dogs, they were given right back, fed some set restarts. And I think we need to see what it's for.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I don't even know. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not saying that the set restarts aren't right. Like they probably are right, but in the same sense, it's like I want to know exactly what. Like, I guess yes, you can have a decent gauge, but in the same sense, for myself, I'm live streaming, so I'm not even able to focus on what's actually happening specifically. So I would love to see for myself something come up on the screen where it's like, okay, that was for holding down too long or whatnot. Like, I just want to know what, I just want to know the specific reason, because there is still a couple of reasons. And I tell you what, there needs to be something that comes up and explains it, because at the moment we're all kind of lost. I think that's pretty much all we need. Is we said about that. I think that pretty much sums up the fact that great rule just needs to be improved upon. Just that needs to be refined. And obviously it is still early days. Like it's round 6 now. It's only been around for 4 rounds, and they are still gauging the public reception of it. And for the time being, yeah, look, it needs to be adjusted, but in the same sense, it is still creating much faster games, and that's why we're seeing the Storm struggle. You know, I continuously say on this podcast that the Storm are going to get there. They will adjust, and we saw them slightly. You can still see them struggling, but we saw them start to adjust against Penrith, who are probably one of the better teams in regards to this fast-paced. They've got a lot of fast-paced players on their team, and you know the Storm did go toe-to-toe with them. Obviously, the Panthers did win in the end, and you know, Hayden, I did tip the old pennies, and you tipped the Storm in that one. But I think that was a fantastic game, and I think that, you know, the Storm, I think they are struggling, but I still think they're going to adjust it. I think that was their game that they started to show the progress.
Where would you put the Storm right now, boys? I'd probably put them in 3rd position. I wouldn't put them in top 2 right now, the way they're playing. They have the quality side to do it, and I had them at the start of the year as minor premiers, but right now I can't see them finishing past below 3rd.
Look, I had the minor premiers in the preseason too, and I'm not going to change it right now. I'm still going to say minor premiers. Look, they've only lost the 2 games, right? Shortened season. I know there are teams who have only lost 1 and there are teams higher on the ladder, but they've just lost the 2. They have that side. As Blaze said, you know, they are starting to get the hang of these rule changes. I think they can hang in there. I still think they're shooing for top 4. I still think they're definitely a top 4 side. Yeah. At the moment, the way things are looking right now, either Para or the Roosters could pip them for that top spot. But considering I had them there at the start of the season, it is still right now only 2 losses. I'm going to stick with them.
Fair enough. Well, I think I'm not going to disagree with you. I'll disagree in the fact that I don't think they'll be first, but in the same sense, I'm not going to disagree with your reasoning behind it. I, right now, can't put them above the Roosters. I, right now, can't specifically put them above the Eels, even though I think the Storm would beat the Eels if they play each other. But I'm not saying on a season ladder, I still think the Eels finish above them. But I say this all the time to you, Hayden. I feel like the Storm just have something over the Eels. I don't know what it is, but they just do. So I've got the Roosters, I've got the Eels. I still think Manly, especially after this performance against the Raiders, where then again, no, actually, you know what? I'm not going to say that because Trbojevic is now out. So that's a huge loss for the next 4 or 5 weeks or whatever. But that was still a fantastic performance by Manly to win that game against the Raiders, full-strength Raiders team, who a couple of weeks ago against the Storm, everyone was saying was the best team since sliced bread. And now everyone's like, okay, they're starting to struggle. And I'm one of those guys. I was one of those bloody idiots back then who was just like jumping the gun and here's the Raiders, they're here to stay. I was one of them idiots. I was one of those sliced bread people. And I'm now starting to say they're starting to struggle a bit. But Manly, yeah, I think Manly are good enough. But Trbojevic being out, we'll see what type of team they are now. They've got a few players out and they're starting to get their injuries. But last year they had a lot of injuries too. And look how far they made it. So, you know, that's a big thing. But guys, let's move into the Brisbane Broncos. It's not exactly the biggest old game, the Newcastle Knights versus Brisbane Broncos, where the Knights won. But I want to talk about the Brisbane Broncos, the state of the club right now. They come up against the Titans this week, which they shouldn't be in the conversation to lose, and yet they are in the conversation where they could possibly lose. Whether I think they're going to lose or not will be on the In the Sheds podcast clips channel with our tips. But whether I think they'll lose or not is another question in itself. However, what's your thoughts right now on the Brisbane Broncos? Because they've lost 4 games in a row. They're not the same team they were in the first 2 rounds. And someone tell me what your thoughts are right now.
Yeah, look, with Brisbane, I'm sort of, part of me is happy a little bit in the sense that, well, one, I'm a Gold Coast Titans fan.
He's happy, mate. All of them is happy.
Yeah. So. Well, and another thing is I had Brisbane 11th in my preseason predictions, and not a lot of people agreed with that at the time. However, considering they're currently in the bottom 4, maybe it's not looking too bad. However, early days.
They can potentially be in the spoon off this weekend if we beat them by, I think, 16 and the Dogs win.
Possibly. I don't know if I'll tip it. You'll have to tune into the clip show
Exactly
afterwards to see. Yeah, Brisbane, their next three: Titans, Bulldogs, Warriors. On paper, right now, they should win all three, but I can't see it happening. I don't know which one of the teams they're going to lose to. I'd say they win 2 out of the 3. I guess, if I had to say right now, they lose to the Warriors.
Okay.
Based off of how things are right now. I don't know. It's weird because Brisbane should win those 3 games. I don't think they will win all 3 based on how they're going. Against Newcastle, it was a bit disheartening for me to see that Newcastle didn't have their best game, I guess you could say. Certainly not as good as they have in the past few weeks, but Brisbane were much worse. And I think that might have made Newcastle look even better. So if you need that for comparison, it's not looking good for Brisbane. I know they still have the likes of David Fifita Jr. out, but Alex Glenn returned, and we saw the return of Tavita Pangai as well. That didn't really add too much.
Yeah.
So I don't know about Brisbane. If I can bring up a question myself, do you guys see Tommy Dearden possibly coming in this week? And do you drop Milford? Do you drop Croft, who has not been as bad, I don't think, but hasn't been amazing?
Not yet.
What do you do? Do you put Milford at fullback? There's so many different options, but I think Tommy Dearden does need to be in there, boys.
Milf in jersey 21 for mine. He definitely deserves a spot on the reserve list, not on the bench and not in the starting side. I'll put him in jersey 21.
I reckon he should be. I reckon he should be chucked down to the feeder clubs for a bit, lads. I reckon he's been shocking. He's been absolutely shocking. And look, I rate Milford I used to rate Milford as a player. Sorry, he definitely has had his games, but he's always been that inconsistent guy. He's always been that guy who will perform one game and then the next game he'll be dead average. And it's always been that way with Milford. And everyone's always had that slight complaint about him. Broncos fans, not so much, because they see the Broncos through rose-coloured glasses. Like, they never see the Broncos being in a bad position. And we all saw that, because this year they thought they were going to be dead-set premiership contenders. But to answer your question, yes, Dearden should come in. Yes, he should be given a crack. No, I don't think Brodie Croft should be dropped just yet. I think that I think that right now he should be given a crack again alongside Dearden. Like, look, Croft hasn't been great, but in the same sense, the whole team hasn't been great. And it's not just about Croft being bad, because it's not. He's had his glimpses of hope. Everyone else hasn't. Where's the glimpses of hope been for everyone else? So I guess if you give someone else in the halves that can help him out a little bit, maybe even, he's obviously trying to show himself. You know, he hasn't been given the chance just yet. He'll come in and try and prove himself. You know, I've got a good friend of mine, Adam, who's a downright Broncos fan. You know, great bloke, loves his Broncos, realistic fan too. But he really wants to see Dearden. He really wants to see Dearden come in, and I think that's the best option. But I want to read out to you right now the comparisons. So Broncos, their fans still think that they're in the glory days. Like, yes, right now, no. But before this, when the season started, just before the season started, they thought they had a chance of winning the premiership. Am I wrong?
From what I've seen, you're completely right, at least on my page. Yeah,
exactly right. Yeah, so they thought before the season that they had a genuine chance of contending this year, all right? So this may seem a little bit unfair to Broncos fans because they see it through rose-colored glasses, like I said, but I'm going to compare right now the team from 2006, the last time they won the premiership, to the team that they have now. And I want you guys to tell me how many players you would take from their team right now compared to the team back then. So first up, and this is because this is who they thought they were going to win. They had a chance to win the premiership this year. So this is your last premiership winning team. So it's not unfair. Justin Hodges was the fullback. Do you take Hodges in that situation, or do you take? And this is the grand final team. Hodges or Isako?
Hodges.
Yep, perfect. All right, Isako, bland play for me. Think he has his talent on his day, but I'm taking Hodges. The old Darius Boyd or Xavier Coates?
The old Boyd.
It's a tough one. The old Boyd.
Well, Coates obviously has the potential, but, you know, there's still a long way to go. And, you know, yes, he scored a fantastic try and he broke the record or whatever it was for his speed. Cool. But I'd probably take Boyd in that situation back then. Brent Tate or Farnworth?
Tate.
Tate's underrated.
Yep, there's 3-0 right there. You got buddy Stagg. Is it David Stagg? No, David Stagg's the one now. No,
Tony Staggs.
No, Tony Stagg's the one now. I'm talking David Stagg. That was the old
right.
Stagg. So Stagg or the new Boyd?
I'm taking the new boy.
No, new Boyd or Stagg?
Stag.
Yeah.
Stag.
Ollie wasn't having any of that. He was like, "Oh, I don't know about that one." There was Carmichael Hunt or Corey Oates.
Oh,
I reckon it's pretty 50-50 for me.
yeah. Look, I would say specifically in the winger position on
I'm
the
taking
wing,
Corey Oates.
I'm taking Oates as well.
Yep.
As a winger, let's just say Hunt was playing at fullback and was up against an Asako, for example. You go Hunt 100% for me. But because we're talking about 2006 on the wing Carmichael Hunt, I am going with Corey Oates.
I agree. When I was writing this down, I said they're pretty even, but I'd still take Oates. I like Oates as a player. So there you go. They're in their backline right now without their halves. We've taken 1 out of 5. Then we've got Darren Lockyer versus Milford. Who are we taking, lads?
Lucky. Get around him.
I tell you what, like I just feel disgusted even saying those two names together. Then we've got Shane Perry or Brodie Croft. Tough one. It is a tough one.
It is.
I'll take Croft. I'll take Croft in the side.
Who you got?
I mean, I feel like I need to take Croft too.
Well, that's
because he's sort of, I guess, it's weird to say for such a young half, but more an established out and out.
Well, I'm not going to show you guys my paper right now, but I've got Croft as the better player there, just because I think Perry was fine, but I don't think he was anything special, and I don't think Croft's really anything special just yet. But I just think he has more time to prove himself. Perry obviously is retired; he doesn't play anymore. So I have gone with Croft in that situation. So there we go. So out of their first 7, that's 2 players out of 7, right? Then we've got Shane Webke or Matt Lodge.
Shane Webke.
Thank you. Berrigan over Luke.
Berrigan.
Yep.
Yeah, Berrigan.
Then we've got Sivan Asiva or Payne Haas. Hard one, but I know who I'm taking.
I think I've got a Petro.
Sivan Asiva for the big hits. Impact.
Yep. I've gone Petro. Haas is a great player, still young, but very young. So I'm taking Sivan Asiva there. Sammy Thaiday or Alex Glenn right now?
He was good. I think I might take Alex Glenn here.
Right now, Alex Glenn over prime Sammy Thaiday. Because Sammy Thaiday, this was in the time when Queensland was Queensland, by the way. Queensland was the best Queensland team ever. And he was in it. He was there right there for an enforcer. So you guys are taking Alex Glenn over Thaiday. It's up to you guys.
I've got Thaiday.
Yeah, you got Thaiday?
No, I've got Thaiday, yeah.
Hayden, what are you going?
Quickly. I'll take Glenn. I'll take him. I still think he's good forward.
Well, I'm taking Thaiday. Pangai Jr., Thorn.
You have to go Thorn, I'd say.
Who you got?
This team's looking so much better.
Yep, Thorn. Then you've got David Fafita or Tony Carroll.
I'm taking David Fafita. Still young, but I'm taking David Fafita for tackle breaks.
I am going to use, I guess, the same argument as picking Sivan Asiva over Payne Haas, right? We can still see more of Fafita. I believe by the end of Fafita's career, I'll be saying David Fafita over that Tony Carroll, but right now I've got to go with Tony Carroll.
100%. I'll tell you right now. I'm going David Fafita, but in the same sense, Carroll's a fantastic player. So throughout all that, besides the forwards who made it tough, we still went with majority of the forwards from the old day, right? The whole back line is basically the old Broncos. Don't even start me on Milford versus Lockyer. So the point of the matter is that team back then was the last time they won the premiership, and that's where you have to compare it if you're going to say that you're a good enough team to win the premiership. All right? So they don't have anywhere near a good enough team to win the premiership, and they're still thinking that they're a top 8 team. They're still thinking that they're a top 4 team. They're still thinking that they're a premiership winning team. And I had one person on the live stream who's a Broncos fan. His name's Buddy Golden Anime. I tell you, get around Golden Anime. There's a shout out for you, champion. He comes in. He says that they will they're going to make the top 8. They're going to make the top 4. And I'm like, what? The top 4? Have you seen this team? They've just lost. They're currently in talks to lose to the Titans. They've just currently come off the back of 4 straight losses. They haven't won a game since March. Since March, guys. They haven't won a game since March, and you're telling me they're going to make the top 4? This is Broncos fans right now, and this is why I need to say it. Pretty much summarise the whole state of the Brisbane Broncos right now. I think that they need to have a serious reality check, and to be honest, man, I think that, and we'll make our tips in a second, but I think, to be honest, if they lose to the Titans, they might actually have some accountability. They don't have any accountability right now. I think that if they lose to the Titans this weekend, which is a genuine possibility, considering that they're both as shit as each other right now. But the thing is that the Titans on the day have actually looked quite. We've seen in a couple of games this year they can have their moments. They can have their moments. So that'll do it for the Broncos. But definitely a pretty average state right now for Brisbane, and I just don't think they're taking any accountability for the state of their team as we speak. Before we get into our tips, we do have to quickly talk about the Kearney situation. Stephen Kearney getting sacked from the Warriors. That's absolutely a mental thing to do. We'll go to you first here, Hayden. What do you think of? Was that the right thing to do?
No, I don't think it was the right thing to do. It's funny because my opinion changed, and I've always thought it wasn't the right thing to do. But I think based on the Warriors' performance over the last couple of years, if you go, or not even the last couple, just 2019 and 2020. Obviously, yes, it was deserved. It was not the right time. And I think people will really disagree with me here, but I think everyone was expecting the Warriors to be 15th, 16th. Yeah, they have been really competitive, the Warriors. I think they've shocked a lot of teams. Even in those losses, I think they've played really well as well. So, look, I think Stephen Kearney as a coach, he's kind of done around there, but I think it's not the right time. The sacrifices that he has made as a coach this year is, I feel like it's a lot of respect that the Warriors have just cut ties and there's no respect between him and the Warriors anymore. And yeah, it was a big shock to me on Saturday, that one.
I have been an advocate for the past few months that Stephen Kearney's time at the Warriors was coming to its end. I predicted in the preseason that he'd be the coach under the most pressure. I also had the Warriors tipped to win the wooden spoon, so that came into play as well. I do think it was a very odd time for it to happen. However, you look over the past few years, Stephen Kearney as a coach has a 36% win rate. Now, out of all the current coaches who didn't debut in 2020, so I think we're looking at Justin Holbrook and Adam O'Brien, not included, he has the worst win percentage as a head coach. And now at his time at the Warriors, I believe it's like at 40%. So only a little better. I believe he's been there since 2017. They made the finals in 2018. They looked good for that first half of the season in 2018, but even then they dropped off. And really, they shouldn't have finished 8th. They should have finished above. But they just dropped completely off. They do need a bit of a change. It's unfortunate to see him go at this time, but maybe it'll be a good thing for the Warriors. I think so in the long run. It'll be interesting to see who they bring in as head coach.
That's where I'm going to jump in. That's where I'm going to jump in right there, because I think that, yes, it is the right decision long term, but in the same sense, your timing is exactly right. That's what I take out of that. The timing is what confuses me. You know, although Paul McGregor wasn't sacked from the Dragons when he rightly should have been, it was made basically because of the fact that they would have had to pay him out $1 million. Okay, so that's fair enough. All right. Or a high sum anyway. So they didn't do that. And also, who are they going to get? Who's in the market right now? Trent Barrett, Jeff Tuvey, buddy John Cartwright, Neil Henry. Like, I'm sorry, there's no one there who's going to take your team to the next level for a consistent period of time. And that's what you need to think about when you're sacking your coach. Because I agree with, there's a few coaches right now that everyone's up in the air about. Paul McGregor, there's John Morris, the Sharks. Obviously there's Kearney. There's a few coaches around the joint. Seabold, the Broncos. There's more than just this one area. And no, there's literally an influx of coaches when there is no coaches to lap up. There is no serious coaches that can change your team to take off the market right now. And there's 4 teams that are potentially four or 5 teams that are potentially looking for a coach. So it's like, I guess the Warriors have gotten in early, but in the same sense, they've sacked their coach. Who do they bring in now? And if you can bring in some young bloke, but in the same sense, is he going to be the guy that takes you to the next level for the period that you want? And I know the Warriors, they want to be successful when Tuivasa-Sheck's still in his prime. That's when they want to be successful. So that's within 3-4 years. Can you see a rando coach come in and making this team successful within 3 to 4 years?
I can see possibly a Nathan Brown coming in and doing it. But with that being said, you bring him in right now, let's say, I'm still not tipping the Warriors to do too well in 2020. I don't think you can bring in a coach right now to quote unquote save their 2020. I think that they are going to struggle. So I think if they bring someone in, give them time. Nathan Brown is a proven rebuilder, I guess you could say, at Newcastle. I would like to see him come in. The big thing for me at the Warriors is, though, Tuivasa-Sheck does need a bit of help. You look at the best sides, like the Roosters. Yes, they've got Teddy, but they've also got Keary. And do I need to go on? They're pretty much their whole side. You look at the Warriors, they've signed him. They've told him, they've sold him on imagine being the man who leads the Warriors to their first premiership. He can't do that alone. It's as if the Warriors are saying, yep, we've got Tuivasa-Sheck. He is going to lead us to a premiership. Now, obviously, that's not what they're thinking, but it just seems to me like there's so much pressure on RTS to perform and to, I guess, carry this team to success. No one can really carry a team to success without a bit of help. Teddy, yes, had a dominant season in 2019.
Unless you're Jared Hay in 2009.
Even then,
he still didn't win. Even then, he still didn't win. Yeah,
he didn't win. And he still had the likes of a Nathan Hindmarsh around it, and they still had a solid side. I'd argue a better side than the Warriors now as a whole.
Yeah.
So you do need, and not necessarily superstar players around you, but players who will get around you and help you improve your game. As I was saying with Tedesco, Dalian medal winner in 2019. Yes, the Roosters won the comp, but you know what? He had Keary there, Gronk. Maria Hargreaves.
Their whole team is unreal. Their whole team is unreal.
Exactly. So with the Warriors, I think Roger Tuivasa-Sheck needs a bit of help, and he's just not getting it at the moment.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking right now, and we're going to jump off and we're going to finish up in a second, but I'm just thinking right now, like I was thinking 2009, Jared Hayne, obviously they didn't win, but he was fantastic, but they did have a bad team. Then there's the Bulldogs in 2012. They didn't win, but Ben Barber obviously was the leader there. I can't think of a season where there's been that one guy who has been the only contributor mainly that everyone attributes that season to, where they've actually gone on to win. So, interesting point, and I agree with you there. And I do think the Warriors obviously don't have as good a team as the Eels in 2009 as well. But yeah, my opinion, I think, unless, maybe Nathan Brown, but unless they're thinking for the next 5 to 10 years, probably 5 to 10 years to have Nathan Brown there. Like, I just don't understand the timing of it, and especially with the influx. I guess they were just doing it to get ahead of, the Dragons, or ahead of, we got the Sharks, or ahead of the Broncos, because I actually personally feel like the Dragons are waiting for Shane Flanagan to get off his suspension, which will be in about a year or so time as well.
100%. That's why I think Paul McGregor stayed around for so long, and they're not getting rid of him yet.
Next up, guys, we have got the AFL, and it was a kind of an average. Well, it was a weird round, actually. It was a really strange round, and there was a lot of rando results. I know I'm a Cats fan. I know. Ollie, who do you support in the AFL, mate?
You're joking.
Oh, no, don't say Hawthorn. Don't say Hawthorn.
No. You're a Cats fan.
I am a Cats fan.
I genuinely support them too.
Get around it. What a bloke. He's a great bloke.
Genuinely, no, because as a kid growing up, I was never a huge AFL fan, and being from Sydney, family support Sydney Swans or whatever, but I've had a pet cat since I was little. Saw the Cats playing one day. It was back when they were good. Well, they're still good, but back when they were winning flags. So
yeah,
I hopped on the bandwagon and I've stuck with them ever
since.
Around them.
There's always a reason why people start supporting, and obviously, like everyone knows with me, I'm from the Gold Coast. I grew up being a rugby league fan. I had a thing for the Essendon, but I didn't really kind of care about AFL. But when my mum started dating this guy, not together anymore, but he's a Geelong fan, and so he got me into the Cats, and I've been obsessed ever since. So. But I wish I wasn't obsessed as this weekend came around, but we're about to get into that. So Hawthorn beats Richmond. Crazy result there, 71-39, just after last week where the Catters, flogged Richmond Catters beat Hawthorn by 60. Then we had the Doggies getting up 57-33 over the Giants. We had the Swans, 71-60 over the Kangas. Magpies, 81 over the 37 over St Kilda. The Blues, 79-77 over the Mighty Catters. Lions, 74-44 over the Eagles. 82-29 for the Suns over the Crows. We had Port Adelaide at 70, Freo 41. And the Essendon game versus the D's was obviously postponed. And that's what we're going to first get into, guys. And we won't speak too long about it because obviously it's been done to death in the media. And there's just a massive mess. But... boys, pretty hectic. Well, what's your thoughts on that one? Because we obviously seen a game suspended, and it's a mess in Victoria. Just in Victoria, stay at home. Stay at home, please. Just stay at home, please. That's all we ask. Just stay at home, please, because it's just mental right now. What's your thoughts?
It's it's so big because it doesn't just affect AFL. It affects NRL. It affects A-League, I think. You've got Melbourne Victory. You've got Melbourne City. You've got Melbourne Storm. All these Victoria-based teams. And who knows if one person's got it, this is transmittable. It's absolutely crazy.
Just on that quickly, guys, we are recording this on a Monday night. There could be news by Tuesday, which is yesterday for you guys watching the podcast. But we're recording this on Monday night. So if there is news that other players do have it, then we apologise. But this is being recorded Monday night. Continue, Hayden.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Obviously, we saw the impact of Aidan Tolman had the teacher who tested positive, and so he has been forced into isolation, not even with contact, but he has been forced into isolation. So I really don't know what they're going to do for Connor. Is he not going to play again this year? Is he going to be isolated for 14 days? Who knows? But as I'm saying, it's a big issue, not just for AFL, but for all sports, I think. And we're seeing that with the fact that the Melbourne Storm and Warriors game has been moved to Cogra.
I'm just going to quickly jump in here before you do, Ollie, and I'm going to say I feel bad for Connor. I feel bad for him, right? And first off, I'm going to make a joke and say, of course, it's Essendon that test positive. Then secondly, we're going to get a bit more serious, and I'm going to say I feel bad for Connor because obviously we saw with the NBA with Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert was basically the guy who everyone around the world now thinks of as the guy that shut down the NBA and shut down world sport. That's what happened. Rudy Gobert will never come back from that. His mental health would be all kinds of messed up after that. And I feel so bad for Rudy Gobert because he's genuinely a very nice guy. He's genuinely an incredible guy. McKenna's obviously not on the same level. He's not there. But everyone in the AFL now knows him as the guy who got the virus and sent everything into a frenzy. Everyone in the NRL now knows this guy as the guy who has sent the whole sporting world into a frenzy. And I really hope that he's not suffering some bad mental effects from this, because even if he, like obviously when he does, and like pray to God he does survive it, which he will do, but it's going to be a long-lasting effect on him, and he's going to come back, and whether this might impact his game, this may impact his life, like long after the fact, just because of this.
He should not be. He doesn't deserve being ridiculed for that. He doesn't deserve being ridiculed. You know, it's a virus where people cannot even know they have it and pass it on to someone else. So, and as you said, Victoria's a bit of a schmozzle right now, I guess you could say, to put it in light terms. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the AFL react beyond postponing that game between Essendon and Melbourne. I hope it doesn't come to a situation where the AFL gets shut down again. But I tell you what, it could happen, and it might not even necessarily be because of that situation. It could be because Victoria is a schmozzle right now.
Yeah, exactly right.
So
yeah.
it could get to the point where they have to shut down, or they have to move the Victorian teams possibly to that Queensland hub.
Well, they're talking West Coast hub, they're talking Gold Coast hub, they're talking hub everywhere. Like, gee whiz, like, look, you know, we were expecting this. We knew what we were getting ourselves into. Everyone knew it across the world. And that's why America is taking a while to come back into it, because they know the ramifications of this. And that's the thing with the AFL. It's like, will they shut it down, or will they kind of just isolate? And then, like, that's the thing. I don't even really care too much about that at the moment. I honestly just care about this poor dude who now has just his whole career could be in jeopardy, in my opinion, mental health wise. I honestly think that could, like, what do you think, Hayden? What do you think on the fact of all this? Obviously the AFL is in turmoil, but do you think they should stop, or what do you think?
If they should stop is such a big thing. Like, I was so against the NRL coming back. Like, I wanted it. But in regards to the safety of players, I didn't think it was the right decision. I think we're getting to a stage where sports are coming back and they're able to control, but AFL's obviously had a breach. We've seen NBA had a breach. We haven't seen it in NRL, in Premier League. It's a really tough subject to touch on, but no, I don't think they should stop. But I think there should be regular testing on players, and I don't know how much they're doing in regards to it.
Yeah, no, that's it's a hard one. I obviously hope they don't stop. I think the AFL is wealthier than the NRL, and I think they could sustain for a lot longer, for all their clubs, longer than the NRL clubs could sustain. Depending on if they can get through. But yeah, look, I think that it's a rough situation. We'll know more about it next week. This is a bit early for us to talk about it in its full extent this week, because obviously tomorrow for us, we may see that there could be 4, 5, 6, the whole team with it, because obviously he's been training with them and he's been interacting with them, and there's no real social distancing done within clubs, and because you're obviously tackling and playing, and you're all basically doing your own. You're all basically in the same situation, so it's really expected that you should be okay.
Do you think this match will be played soon, or do you feel like this could be postponed indefinitely?
I definitely lean more towards the indefinitely section. It won't be this week, but the whole point, and this is something that the 16 quarters brings, is a factor of 16-minute quarters, is because of this. It's the whole fact, because of the whole 16-minute quarters thing. It's because of this, because there might have to be a game that gets chucked into a Wednesday, and then they're going to have to back it up on Saturday or Sunday. So that's the issue that we're facing here. But guys, let's move into a bit of a summary of the round. But I think that everything's pretty self-explanatory, really. Like we see with the Richmond game versus Hawthorn, that's pretty crazy, actually. Do you guys have any thoughts on the Richmond-Hawthorn game?
The whole round was unpredictable. Just you couldn't. What did I get in my tips? 2, 3?
Yeah, no, I think you got 3 and I got 2. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Oh, just a really different round of AFL. I mean, it was good to see. It was good to see those clubs that I guess you could say don't do so well actually get up.
Carlton over Geelong, yeah. But I will say this on that game, though. Geelong obviously did come back by 40 points in the fourth quarter, and we arguably should have won, but we didn't. So Carlton still win, but...
Can I rip apart a team here?
Go for it, mate. You go for it, son.
Sydney Swans. I tipped you, and you won. Be ashamed of yourselves, you
What's
idiots.
going on here? Why?
Mate, they were so bad in that fourth quarter. I thought North Melbourne were going to snatch it. North Melbourne almost get my team of the week based on the way their performance was in the fourth quarter. If you watch that game, because you were streaming the Titans and Dragons, so you didn't get a chance to watch it. Did you see it, Ollie?
I saw a bit of it. I ended up watching the footy too, but I watched the first while of it where Sydney were looking good. But that fourth quarter, I've seen highlights of the fourth quarter, and
3 goals to none, and 1 behind to 3 behinds. That was the fourth quarter for the Kangas.
Yeah, the fourth quarter for the Kangas was good, and Sydney Swans couldn't really stick it out. They had a real good lead, and what did they end up winning by? It was
71-60. So.
The
Swans ended up winning by 11, but the Kangas came back by they got about 18 points on them in that fourth quarter and made it real close. And I did say this about the Kangas this year. They're pushing for that 8. I think they're around 10th, 9th. But then again, this whole Essendon situation could push Essendon out of the 8 because it's going to be a mess for them too. So I could actually put Kangas into the 8 now. But it all depends on their consistency. Obviously, Collingwood flogging. We all knew they'd win. And then there was the Lions, West Coast, actually. We'll follow up on the West Coast from last week. Do you guys still think that they are contenders?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's still early days, but over the past couple of seasons, they've been consistent in terms of being a finals side. I'm not as sure. Put it this way, I'm not tipping them to win the flag or anything. But I still think they're a top 8 side at least.
You're tipping them to win the flag, aren't you? Oh, you come close anyway, aren't you, Hayden?
I did think so at the start of the year. They're starting to prove me wrong, but it's still early days, and I still think they're a contender. I think they haven't shown it physically yet, but I still think they've got the side. And once they can get the ball rolling, I think this team can get some wins together.
Well, you guys...
Will it start this week? You'll have to wait and find out.
Exactly right. You'll see our tip because this is the round that we're going to see it. This is the round that we're going to see West Coast. They play Port Adelaide. So we will be tipping that on the In the Chase podcast YouTube channel. So go and check that out. But that's going to be I said this last week. That was the game that I'm looking forward to see how Port Adelaide are this year and obviously to see how West Coast are this year because they are both good teams, but they both also know how to lose games that they know that they really should be winning. So look, I know Geelong. What we're going?
I was going to say, just on this game, how good is my Brownlow Smoky? And I think last week's guest, James, agreed with me that Lachie Neale,
he did agree with you,
outstanding for Lions.
Yeah, well, look, Lockie Neely is a great player, but I think, yeah, you're definitely not too far off it. I still wouldn't be surprised with the Collingwood play getting into this point, but in the same sense, there's no one really who's really absolutely stood out for Collingwood. They've all been great. Still, Sidebottom was pretty good against the Saints. I guess a lot of them were. Pendles was good there too, and Brodie Grundy. So, look, I still think someone from Collingwood, someone in that midfield in Collingwood's going to get it because they're just obviously they're another level this year. Obviously, they did draw to Richmond, but I think that win against the Saints really does prove something. And the other game that I want to talk about is definitely the Gold Coast Suns. So obviously the Gold Coast Suns beat Adelaide Crows, and the Adelaide Crows are shithouse. I tipped the Crows just because I thought that there was no way that the Crows could be just as shit as they were the week before against Port Adelaide. I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe my eyes when I watched how bad the Crows were against Port Adelaide. But Port Adelaide are a good team. Gold Coast, I didn't know if they were a good team yet. And that's the question I'm asking right now. Is the Gold Coast a good team, or have they played two terrible teams? West Coast obviously aren't a terrible team, but last week they did play terrible. And it's not because the Gold Coast were just absolutely like a better team overall than them. It was because that game West Coast didn't turn up. So I can't really look too much into that result specifically because I just don't think West Coast turned up. And if West Coast did turn up, they probably do win or at least make it close. And that proves it a lot in itself. But coming up against the Crows, that doesn't really prove too much to me either because like they did win by 60 points. How much did they win by? They won by 53 points. That's a lot to win by. That's something that you never see the Gold Coast Suns win by. They couldn't even beat an under 16 teams like that last year. But, do you guys rate them as an actual team? And this week they play Freo too, so I can't even prove it there. They play the Geelong the week after. That'll be a good proving point. That'll be a good proving point right there. In 2 weeks' time, they play Geelong down at the Cattery, down at Cardinia. So, but look, I'm going to go to you guys now. I'm going to stop yammering my mouth. We'll go to you first, Hayden. Do you think the Suns are an actual contender this year?
No, unfortunately not. I think they're going to play with heart. They're going to get some nice wins, but I think they'll be well away from the top 8. I think our position right now, obviously they're sitting in 4th, so that's a long way down. I still think they'll get a few wins together. I still see them winning some games and playing these games where the team absolutely plays with heart, and that's what we're seeing up in the Gold Coast. Lots and lots of heart, but I don't think they're the real deal, and I think they've got a tough run coming up after Freo.
I definitely don't see them winning the spoon, which I think a lot of people sort of picked in the pre-season. I like young Rao coming in. I think he has the potential to not necessarily turn them around as in make them a contender or something, but I think he's been very good, and I believe he is a key reason as to why the Gold Coast won those 2 games. It'll be interesting to see in the weeks coming because they not only beat the Crows, they absolutely dominated them. Yeah. I think the Crows could be a contender for that wooden spoon now. Right now, if I had to pick it, I'd probably say the Crows.
Yep.
Yeah, look, I'm sort of going to have to agree with Hayden here. I think they will improve definitely on last season. I don't see them winning the spoon, but around that sort of that 14th, 15th area, I can see. And yeah, again, as you said, Hayden, a few good wins along the way.
Well, that's the thing. I said a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, I don't know if you remember this, Hayden, before we did our preseason predictions, I said, with AJ on the podcast, I said that Gold Coast were going to be better than last this year. They were going to be a better team, like I think with Carlton, and Carlton proved that. I think the Carlton's a better team. They're not going to get the finals. They're not going to win the premiership, but they're not going to win the flag. But then they're a better team. And I think the Suns, and I said this, the Suns are a better team this year. Whether they make the finals or not is a different question. I think they're currently top of the table, aren't they? No, they're currently 3rd place, 4 points behind Port Adelaide. But the fact is seeing Gold Coast up there, and I'd argue that we might even see Gold Coast potentially top of the table by the end of this week. But that will be what we talk about in our tips. So let's. I think that's pretty much all we need to talk about in regards to that round. Actually, no. Quickly, just want to ask Ollie, you first here, because obviously you're a Catters fan as well. Do you think that's how much do you think that result against Carlton is going to mean for the Cats this season?
Not too much. I still feel like, I feel like I'm not going to be too biased here and say that I think the Cats are going to win the flag. I don't think that'll happen, but I still think they're a solid top 8 outfit. I think they'll bounce back from this. It's one game, and it's a game they lost by 2 points, and it's against a Carlton side that, as you said, are better. They are a side who I believe could beat a side on the level of the Cats on their day.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And as you
I
said,
agree.
that last quarter, the Cats still came back. Didn't win, but still came back. So
We were down by 40 at three-quarter time, though.
yeah,
That was a
but
gripping game.
We did come back. So I think it's that one game, and we'll just have to see how things go from here. But I think they'll still be relatively positive. Still a top 8 side.
I've said it all along. I think the Cats will be in the top 8. I think they'll respond from this game. They fought so hard. They came so close, but Eddie Betts broke Geelong fans like yourselves. And
I don't know about that. A lot of people are talking about Eddie Betts, but
the
it's like
tackle.
the tackle. But I know, but like Geelong, like this is proved what I say every week. This is what I said. Like, they could be a top of the top 8 team, or they could be a bottom of the top 8 team. They're going to be a top 8 team, but I don't know if I'm going to put them in first, or I don't know if I'm going to put them in 8th. That's the thing with them. And like, they go out one week and they'll go out and beat Collingwood. I'm going to tell you right now, whenever we play Collingwood, I can tell you we're going to beat them. But then we're also going to lose to Carlton. That's the thing with us. We know it's not even that we lose to the worse off teams and we beat the better teams. It's that you just don't know what you're going to get with them. You never know what you're going to get with us. So, we're going to make the top 8, whether we're top of the 8, whether we're top 4 of the top 8, or we're bottom 4 of the top 8, or whether we're first or 8th. I don't know, but that's what you get with the Cats. And look, it's going to be an interesting season. It's always an interesting season with the Cats. Next up, guys, we have the Premier League. It was a fantastic weekend of football to return us back. And obviously, we're going to love David Luiz, given a cheeky little 3-0 win there to the mighty boys, the mighty Citizens there to win 3-0 over Arsenal. Give you guys a quick rundown on what happens. We had Aston Villa versus Sheffield United, which was 0-0, but really it should have been 1-0 to Sheffield United. But for some reason, technology wasn't working that day, and VAR decided, you know what, we're actually on a smoko right now. We're on a smoke break right now, so we're not going to come back and actually rule the goal was a real goal, because we just can't be bothered, really. Moving on from that, so that Sheffield obviously draw that 1-0. Then we had Man City winning 3-0 over Arsenal with a red card there to David Luiz, and he also seriously helped us with those first 2 goals. Norwich lost to Southampton 3-0. Big result there. Tottenham Man United, I live streamed that game. Jose Mourinho makes me want to throw myself against a wall with my head. It was a 1-1 draw there. A 1-1 draw with Watford and Leicester City, but there was no goals in that game until the 90th minute of the game for Leicester. Brighton beating Arsenal 2-1. Good on you, Arsenal. Wolves 2-0 beat West Ham. We had Crystal Palace beating Bournemouth 2-0. Newcastle United beating Sheffield United 3-0, with Sheffield United getting a red card in that one as well. Chelsea coming back from 1-0 down against the Villa at halftime to win 2-1. And Everton and Liverpool, it was a 0-0 draw. Lads, I'm a City fan. We've got Hayden, who's a Chelsea fan, and you're a Liverpool fan, mate. We'll go to you first, Ollie. What were your thoughts on that round?
A decent return. It was a bit of a sour return with that first game. Obviously, Sheffield should have won 1-0. I've never seen it. Wasn't a 50-50. It was.
It was in the side netting.
He was holding the ball in the side
netting.
I was thinking, you know what? Because the keeper was doing some good social distancing in that side netting, we'll call it a no goal.
Yeah,
that was just shocking. David Luiz, not the best performance for the time he was on the field.
Beautiful
against City. Well, I heard that before the Brighton game, Brighton were appealing to try and get his red card rescinded so he could play, so they could probably win by a couple more goals.
Yeah, exactly right, yeah.
Southampton looked really good against Norwich. I know Norwich has been poor, but Danny Ings has had a wonder season. And that looks like it's
I really enjoy watching him play, man. I really enjoy watching Ings play for a team like Southampton, who this arguably gets them out of the relegation battle. I think this now pushes them outside of that area, and there's no way. And I don't think last week they were in it, but they were still kind of thereabouts. But I think this win puts them out of it, which is beautiful to see.
Tottenham Man United 1-1. It's sort of what I'd expect. That's just a score. Top 6 teams, they like to draw 1-1-0 or whatever. I didn't really like this game too much, especially the performances of Maguire and De Gea.
I'm going to jump in there quickly. And I'm going to say on that, I think that Tottenham were fantastic in that first half. I thought they were unreal. I thought they played really well. I think they were really good until half-time. And then Jose Mourinho, the old manager, loves his defensive tactics. He loves his park the bus style, and he ruined the game. He literally ruined the game for Tottenham. He arguably well, there was actually a penalty that got rescinded, that got taken away from United as well. It wasn't a penalty, but in the same sense, there was a point there that they were about to go down 2-1 when they were up 1-0 at half time and they were looking great. But then the park the bus tactics, I don't even think there was a shot on target. I don't even nearly think there was a shot on goal from Tottenham in that second half. And it really frustrates the shit out of me because Jose Mourinho is not the manager for Tottenham. He shouldn't be there. Tottenham is an attacking team. Tottenham is a team that loves to attack and the fluidity of the ball. And Harry Kane's basically a defensive mid at this point. Honestly, Harry Kane wasn't even anywhere near the box. He's basically a defensive mid at this point, and it frustrated me in that game. And yeah, I just think that Jose Mourinho is not the manager for Tottenham, man. I don't think that he is the type of style that should be playing, because honestly, they win this game 2-3-0 if they keep playing the same play as they did in the first half. But they ended up drawing 1-1, and arguably that could mean that they don't make the Champions League this year because of that performance. And against United, I think they would have jumped United or been on equal points or 1 point below. Actually, no, but they would have been 1 point below them. So the point of the matter is that they would have been there. They would have been there. But now, because of that draw, they've given the opportunity back to Wolves, who had a good game, and also United are still up there. They got off scot-free when they didn't deserve to be off scot-free.
I was just about to touch on that. In fifth place, I've got the Wolves, and I thought they played really good against West Ham. I also think Newcastle really shocked everyone with that 3-0 win to Sheffield United. We saw Sheffield United being one of those sides that were battling there. We didn't think they'd make it, but I expected them to win this game. But Newcastle came out firing.
Has Newcastle officially been bought over yet?
No.
Sure.
No, because I know that I know that they are currently in talks to be taken over by, I believe, a Saudi Arabian someone similar to the Sheikh, basically. And but obviously they all want Mike Ashley gone. Everyone wants Mike Ashley gone. I'm not even a buddy. Newcastle I'd classify as a team that I don't mind to watch. Like, not a second team. I don't have a second team. Premier League's different to rugby league and AFL. You have a team. That's it. I like to watch Bournemouth. I like to watch Newcastle, and I would love to see them do well. But they're not a second team to me. But yeah, I would like to see Newcastle do well. I think they deserve it. They've got a fantastic stadium. My favourite stadium in the whole world, nearly in any sport. I love St. James Park. I think they're a great team. And yeah, they played well against Sheffield, and Sheffield are a good team too. But I think that draw where they deserved to win 1-0 really would have hampered them. I think they would have gone into this game against Newcastle thinking, that's it. We have a genuine chance of making top 4 here, lads. We've just been promoted and we have a chance to make top 4. But because they didn't get that one goal and win the game against a shit-house team, and it was Villa, yeah? It was Villa they played, yeah? It was, Aston Villa. Because they didn't win that game, I think that their heads went, see you later, and they fell apart to Newcastle, who arguably aren't playing for anything.
Yeah, look, Newcastle aren't a terrible side either. They've been... From what we've seen from Newcastle the past couple of years, they've been all right, but I definitely wasn't expecting this against Sheffield United. Sheffield have got United coming up, just touching on it, and I think they can bounce back to an extent where it won't be a 3-0 loss.
They could win that game, man. United aren't good. United are not good. Are you talking about like Man United?
Yeah. I'm talking about Man United, and I think as well, young Henderson, he's currently on loan at Sheffield from United. Now, there are talks that they want De Gea out, or that De Gea is coming to the end of his time at the club. It's looking more and more likely they'll just bring Henderson back. If Henderson has a good game in goal against United, I can guarantee the next day on the papers it will be United are looking to bring Henderson back at the end of the year, at the end of the season. And I think he'll
What's crazy with that too is that with United, obviously De Gea has been known as one of the best goalkeepers in the world for so long now, for quite a few years now. And he's known as probably the best shot stopper in the world. But that goal against Tottenham, he should have been saving that. And that's what he's basically become. If he had have gone to Real Madrid a couple of years ago when he should have gone to Real Madrid, obviously it didn't work out. But I think he's missed his opportunity to be one of those top-tier goalkeepers for his career. I think he missed his opportunity, and now he's going to be known as that guy who missed his opportunity.
I really just wanted to touch as well on Jimenez from Wolves. A great performance against West Ham, and Brighton against Arsenal. I mean, good on you, Arsenal. I mean, it was pretty bad that heading into this game, I was more confident of a Brighton win than an Arsenal win. I was tipping a draw, but I was convinced that Arsenal they just weren't going to win this game, and they didn't. 2-1 to Brighton.
They went up 1-0 too, man.
They did. and it was 1-1 for a little while there, and then right at the death, Brighton got the win.
Yeah,
Arsenal got a little too cocky, I'd say, when they went up 1-0, but.
Well, the thing that I'm enjoying the most here, looking at the table, is that if Burnley aren't going to beat us in the morning, and this is being recorded on Monday night, so Burnley play Manchester City tomorrow morning for us. Well, tomorrow night for everyone in England. I think, well, if Burnley beat City, then they go above Arsenal into the top 10. If Burnley are able to provide a shock, which they won't, but if they were to have some kind of miracle, they would jump into the top 10 here over Arsenal, and Arsenal would be currently in 11th. They would be in 11th. So they're around that point of Everton. They're around that point of Crystal Palace. They're around that point of Southampton. And that's shocking. That's actually shocking. This is where Arsenal is right now. Arsenal are dead set. They're on 40 points. Just to let you guys know, relegation right now is 27 points. They are literally 13 points off relegation. They're not getting relegated. But do you realise that with 8 games to go in the season, they still are not technically out of the equation to be relegated? They're still not technically out of their relegation. It's madness to me. It's madness to me. But this bloke over here, Mr. Hayden, will be loving that.
I want to give a bit of praise to Everton. Everton played a real fantastic game against Liverpool. They should have won that game. I think that they should have won that game. They were really competitive, really grueling, and Liverpool were without Salah, which obviously says a lot for them. But Everton, they looked good in the restart.
I'll tell you this on Liverpool. Liverpool are going to win the league this year, but they're lucky that they had such a significant gap at the top by the time this comes around. And I think you might agree with this here, Ollie, because I know obviously you're a Liverpool fan. I think you guys are very lucky that you've got this massive gap at this point of the season where it's basically unchaseable. Yep. Because I think you guys literally play in front of, I think your whole game revolves around how passionate the fans are in the stadium, the atmosphere that Anfield brings. And I don't think Anfield even means jack shit right now. I would love City to be playing at Anfield in 2-3 weeks because Anfield is not the same place. I think that Liverpool plays on the emotions of their fans. And I think that that's why they're so successful, because their fans are arguably one of the best supporter groups in the world in any sport. And I think that without the fans here, they are going to struggle. But because they're up by such a significant gap at this point, I think City will come back a bit. I think maybe we might still win. You guys might still win by maybe 15 points. I think you guys still could lose a couple of games here. You arguably should have lost Everton. Everton were the better team. And they hit the post, I think, 3 times in that game. So, look, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because obviously you are a Liverpool fan. You know what they're like. But, I think that you guys will struggle to finish off this season as well as you guys would hope so.
Well, first of all, I want to say Minamino was playing very good the first half, got subbed off half-time as well. I get that Klopp was trying some things out with the restarted season, but I think Minamino probably should have stayed on. Not saying we would have gone on to win. Everton were very good as well. We've got Palace next. I would not be surprised.
You guys don't like playing Palace too.
I wouldn't be surprised if Palace got a win. I believe it's at Anfield, but as you said, there's no crowd there. I still think we are a quality side. But, the passion of the crowd does play a factor. For
the only reason Anfield is Anfield. Look, Etihad's a little bit different, but Anfield is... It's like you go there and you're under attack straight away. Like we all know what happened with City and Liverpool when we had to drive our bus through Barney Liverpool. But yeah, you're under attack. So, that's what I think about Anfield. But go on.
Yeah, well, we've got Palace next, and then we've got City. City, either way, I think it's based off that game against Everton. If I had to pick right now, I'm probably leaning towards City to win that game. Look, because Liverpool are leading by so much, I'm not going to sit here and say that if City had those players, they would be on top of the league. But I would say the gap is definitely. This
was our year that we weren't going to win. It was like the Leicester year in 2016 when we weren't great. Like we fell apart. Arsenal fell apart that year. Chelsea fell apart that year. Everyone fell apart that year except for Tottenham. And Tottenham still, obviously, still like 54 years without the Premier League, but without the top division. But look, I think you're probably right. It would have been closer, but actually, that's actually a good point that you just made there. Because if we were within 10 points right now, I could honestly see us coming back and winning this title.
Let's just say if it was right now, but the season as a whole, based on how Liverpool have played up until this point, I can't say, even as a Liverpool fan, I can't say that City would win. I can't confidently say just because of the season
100%.
we've had in the Prem. But
We
that
lost to
gap's
Norwich.
definitely closer.
We lost to Norwich.
We lost to Watford. So
yeah,
there you
we
go.
beat them 8. We beat them 8-0. You guys lost 3-0. That was crazy.
The point I wanted to make is I still think Liverpool would win the league. However, the gap just has to be a lot closer.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's going to be. Next year is going to be crazy. I think United should arguably be up there next year. Obviously, City and Liverpool will be there. Tottenham fans would hope to be there, but they would be there if Mourinho wasn't there. If Mourinho wasn't there, Tottenham would honestly be up there. Arsenal are nowhere near. Like, look, Arsenal right now are looking at losing Buddy, Lacazette and Aubameyang. They're looking at losing both of them because they're not going to have any Champions League. They're not going to have any Europe whatsoever. So Arsenal are in dire straits right now. And I think next year, look, Chelsea should be there, but they're not looking fantastic. They got Werner, but look.
Ziyech as well, who's looked good at Ajax. But we'll have to see how he goes in a top 5 league.
And Werner's kind of like, he's basically like look. Chelsea's not greatest with attackers lately. They're not the greatest. They have a lot of attackers that come there. And look, Olivier Giroud, he's not exactly the greatest striker to have. And over the years, they've had good strikers, but it's never been their strongest point since Didier Drogba. Since Drogba went, they've never really had the strongest strikers. Diego Costa was good for a little bit, but he then obviously went back as well. Besides that, look at who's been there. Who was that guy that came a couple of years back? He's still kind of there. No, 2 years, 1 year. He's a small guy. I can't even think of his name right now.
Not Kante.
No, Kante is a defensive mid.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about striker. Man, Chelsea striker. He's small player.
Tammy, no,
not Tammy Abraham.
Tammy's been there.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about, he might have even been gone. He's like a Jovetic kind of player. Jovetic was a small, he wasn't great for us. But I can't think of his name right now. That's the point. Chelsea's strikers, they've struggled recently. So Werner coming in, he will bring something. But I look forward to seeing if he can actually break the attacker curse that Chelsea has right now, ever since Eden Hazard arguably left as well.
I think next season possibly we see Wolves prove themselves as a proper top 7, possibly top 6 side. I think they can consistently do so. Maybe a couple of signings.
As long as you're saying like bottom of the top 6, 7, not as in like a premiership contending.
No, I don't. I'm not even tipping a top 4 side, but I think they will consistently be that 6th or 7th side, possibly at the behest of an Arsenal or something. I think they could be a better team than Arsenal next year.
Arsenal are going to struggle, man.
even on paper, because they're probably going to lose Lacazette and Aubameyang. Could end up losing them to Wolves, who knows? But Wolves have got a really good side right now. Maybe like a couple of pieces to just sit themselves there. And Arsenal, they're really not looking great.
They aren't looking great, but there we go. That basically wraps up everything that's going on right now. Next week we'll do a little bit more of the relegation updates because we are getting towards the end of the year. Looking forward to Leeds coming up next year, hopefully. That's going to do it for today, lads. We've gone through Premier League, we've gone through Rugby League, we've gone through AFL. We've absolutely killed it, lads. We've absolutely killed it. Did we miss anything? Hopefully we didn't. Did we miss anything?
No, I think we've done it all. Fantastic pod.
Look, I think there might have been a game of European handball during the week or something we should touch on.
That's the gamblers. The gamblers, they've probably got on something in the Japanese League, Buddy 3 or something like that they want us to talk about. But I don't think we're going to have enough time for that one today. But obviously, guys, we've got to give a big thank you to Ollie here from Rugby League, in my opinion. I hope you have enjoyed, and we've really enjoyed having you on for a pretty in-depth chat about pretty much every sport, man.
An honour to come on. You guys are absolutely killing it, so I was glad to be asked on. You've had some great guests recently, so I was a bit daunting that you asked me, to...
We got Greg Bird on this week too, mate.
You got Greg Bird on. You've had Sowie, I believe.
Yeah.
The Donster. You've had Archie Thompson. I mean... But you've fit me in, so I'm very grateful for that. Guys, just thank you for having me on. Quick plug, you can find me at Rugby League, in my opinion, on Facebook, or at RL, in my opinion, on Instagram. Thank you so much, guys.
There you go. Well, he has his RL, in my opinion, but he obviously also does know about his other sports as well, guys. So if you love your other sports, also chuck him chuck him a quick follow. Obviously, Hayden, Entertain House, he's here as per usual, and he's raring to go for Parramatta again this week. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Good stuff, guys. Thanks for jumping on, Ollie.
Alrighty, we are going to finish up for today. So I do really appreciate you guys, as per usual. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. We need to see those thumbs up so we know that you're enjoying this content. We've got a huge weekend of sport coming up. Subscribe below BKRsport, and also go and subscribe to the In the Sheds podcast YouTube channel, where you can see our NRL tips, our AFL tips, little extra clips from all the different podcasts with all the different players, and also our Super Rugby tips as well. We chuck on there. I'm going to be live streaming literally like 12 games this weekend on BKRsport across 3 different sports. It's going to be incredible. So I do hope you are enjoying. And if you do want to jump on one of these Wednesday podcasts, let us know. Hit up the In the Sheds Instagram page and let me know if you want to jump on, and we'll fit you in somewhere. We're pretty much full for the next 4 or 5 weeks, but in the same sense, we would love to grab you on here, just like Ollie's been on here, and talk, just talk shit about sport, really. But that is going to do it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you later. See ya.